Well, hi, Sophia.
Hey, Alfred.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for coming on to the Creative Department pod.
I'm honored to be on it. So excited.
Yay. I had Dom on the first week. You know my friend Dom, right?
Yeah.
And so, I really like, I don't know, it's like taking a moment really quick to just kind of express in the beginning, like, why I kind of like have you on, or like why I like just giving people roses and thorns. We talk about this.
Oh, yeah.
And I've told you this to your face a bunch of times, but I think I've gotten a bunch of inspiration from you over like the last 2 years, and a lot of information as well. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to share that with you.
Aw, same to you.
Soph is a social media manager, content creator, and much, much, much more. We're going to dive all into that.
All right.
How do you think about content? Like, do you think about content often, or do you kind of just like do it?
I think about it all the time. Mm-hmm. Way too much.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a whole new world of like marketing for us. So.
No, I like ask these questions. I think like the purpose of this pod too is like, I think it's like for creators by creators. Okay. And I think that you're a valuable like knowledge of wealth, or wealth of knowledge. I think like a lot of people would actually like really like to be in the position that you're in, that you've like created for yourself, essentially. Like it wasn't like handed.
Right.
Especially like with like the social media position that you're in right now too.
I think it's easy to like forget that a lot of times, because I didn't ever think that I would be where I'm at, I guess. I remember in high school, a teacher said to me that a lot of the jobs that we're going to have one day don't even exist yet. And I was always like, I'm going to hold on to that because I have no idea what I want to do with my life. So I'm going to hold on to that. And little did you know, like 5 years later, there would be like a whole career for managing social media accounts that literally didn't exist 5 years ago. And even when I go back home to Minnesota, like people around there, it's still such a new thing. When I was like explaining that to some of my family and stuff, they're like, that's a job? Like, you know, it's definitely super good to check in every day with myself and be like, hey, like you used to dream of doing something like this, and like you get to do this every day. So super grateful to be in the position I'm in.
Nice. Yeah, that's super awesome. I've actually never thought about it from that perspective, that the jobs 5 years from now probably won't even like exist now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Did you always know that you wanted to take, like, did you have this like creative kind of route in you always?
Yeah, for sure. I remember like I always wanted to be a writer when I was younger. That was my thing. And
interesting.
At some point in 9th grade, my dad was driving me home and he said, you need to make more realistic expectations for your future. And I was like, no, Dad, I'm going to New York and I'm going to be a writer. And after that, I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And I started to get super into videography, and just, I didn't know what I wanted to do at the time, but I was just trying to explore the things that brought me like that creative feeling, you know, like when you make a video, like there's nothing better than that feeling of being proud of that art. So I was just chasing that, and through the years, trying different things, it's led me to like exactly where I'm supposed to be. So I think leaning into whatever's inspiring you and just being open-minded to see like where that can take you.
Oh, caught you lurking on the pod. Look at you. I caught you red-handed. That's crazy. If you're here, can you just do me a quick favor? Hit the subscribe button that's right here. I'd really appreciate it. We're trying to get to 10K subscribers on the channel. And if you're listening to this through Spotify, feel free to follow it, or do both. That would be kind of really crazy. Or if you want to get really insane, you can leave a comment. That's really crazy too. Okay, let's get back to hearing about Soph's life. Okay, bye.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I think like that whole story too about like, and I don't think we have to get too much into that, but just like how you came to California, originally from Minnesota, and you're just like, I don't know, kind of dropping everything and then coming out here to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's cool though. I think I align myself with that a lot, of just like creating the video and like telling the story. Do you think you have the story before you ever hit the record button, or do you just come up with the story just as time goes on?
I used to, like, for a while, create the story before. And when we got into like social media breaks and all that, like I recently heard on a podcast that the world like around us is no longer reality for us. Like the world on our phone is our reality. We're planning out these moments to happen to look back on. So like I got so deep into this that I was like, oh, like next week I'm gonna plan this and get this kind of content for it. And for a second I had to step back and be like, what the hell am I doing? Like You can't plan your life like that. So lately, what I try to do is just like feel a moment. Like, what songs am I listening to with my friends? Like, what is the energy, you know?
Right.
And see how I can make that a story.
No, yeah, 100%. I think that's super huge because I think when I first met you, that was like the big thing that I was always chasing was the story. I was like, oh no, there's a story here, there's a story. And you're like, dude, just like chill.
Yeah.
Like let it happen. Like it's going to be there. And I think the perception that kind of changed in my head for me because I met you was that I was just more focused. I was like, oh, okay, I'll pivot my focus to just like creating an environment where like energy could be like safe enough to like flow.
Right.
And I was just like, oh, okay, like this is it's just better if we just let things happen here.
Yeah, it's way more authentic if you just let a moment happen, and it keeps you different from everybody else. Everyone's trying to do the same thing. So it's like, how can you stand apart, feel into your own energy more?
I like that. Were you always kind of tapped into like what, like at least the things that you knew that you liked always, or was it kind of just figuring it out?
I always knew like what excited me, but I knew that there would always be stepping stones to get there. And so one thing that I've always like held on to is that I've had really good mentors throughout my life and who have like all brought me different things. So I think taking all of that together, like now I'm like, okay, this is what I get to do because I learned all these different skills from different people.
Well, nice. I have a couple questions written down that I do want to ask you a little bit about. So you're kind of like, you specialize in TikTok a little bit more than I would say the other media apps. Not to say that you don't have any credibility in the other ones, but
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about like brand collaborations in regards specifically, because I think a lot of people are doing brand deals these days, and they're going to become more and more progressively a larger part of like the economy of a creator. What are some like red flags that you see when like working with brands, and then what are some like green flags?
I feel like with red flags, you're always looking out for, I don't know, any brand that you've never heard of, honestly, because I wouldn't want to work with a brand I've never heard of. So I feel like that's automatically a red flag for me. And then anybody who's like pushy, like they're commenting on your stuff, that kind of thing. I feel like a green flag is when a brand's just like very straightforward. They have like a media deck they'll send with all the information. They'll be willing to hop on a call with you. Like if they won't hop on a call with you, that's a super red flag. It's like,
Right. Interesting.
get paid before.
Get paid before. Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
Do you see like yourself, like in the next like 3 to 5 years, do you think that brand deals is going to be a big part of your kind of like, income or piece of the pie?
I definitely think it could be. It was at one point. I'd say like 50% of my income at one point. I never like fully explored that. It was just like a lot of pressure for me, I felt like, and I didn't know what I wanted to promote, and I didn't feel worthy enough at the time. So I think now, like, I've taken a big break from social media, but I think, like, coming back, that will be, like, a big part of it because I've been able to work with some really cool brands recently, and I feel more inspired.
That's interesting, too. Like, when I met you, I was like, dang, Soph's resume is stacked. But, like, now it's like, I feel like your resume has just been building, like, super good.
Yeah, it's crazy, too. Like, when you're not even on the internet for a long time, and even, like, a couple weeks ago, I went to, like, a super cool, like, dream brand event. And I met girls that I've been following for years and I've looked up to, and I'm like, I want to be like that, you know? So yeah. I'm like, I have what it takes. Like, anyone can do it. That's the crazy part. So
do you ever look at those girls too and think like, damn, like there's really no difference between them and I? It's like,
I think recently, yes, you know?
Interesting.
Before, I definitely was like not confident in who I was enough to be like, oh, I can do this. Or even like asking a brand for money, that was super hard for me. Like I used to just think free product was enough, but
right.
Know your worth.
Speaking of worth, like, do you like when you're like pricing stuff out? I mean, obviously it's like you have some negotiation room with the brands. More recently, I've been having kind of thoughts about like, we're making brands like a lot of money, like when it's like we're sponsoring them and these kinds of things. And I'm like, I think that like any brand deals that I've ever done myself is just like I've undersold dramatically.
For sure.
But I think it's a learning process.
Right. You can't just right away be like, oh, I want $3,000 for this post. Like you can't do that, you know?
Right.
So it takes time. You have to build your resume. And I think a lot more creators have been way more transparent about their pricing, which has been super helpful because, I don't know, I think a lot of my friends at least, like we've learned from each other. We're like, what should we charge for this sort of thing? And it's important because other generations, like we never did this. We never talked about our income. And like our generation's like, let's be open, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. It's like an employer's like worst nightmare,
Yeah.
but it's like perfect for us. I
Mhm.
love it. A couple more questions for you. When you are feeling low on inspiration, like what do you do? Like do you have a way to get yourself like I think actually these are two separate questions. I'm sorry. So the first question would be like what do you do for inspiration? And then two, what's the do you know the formula it takes to get yourself like easily in the flow state?
The first part of that, when I'm low on inspiration, I love to get out in nature. I think nature's so healing, and it's the place where we go to reconnect with ourselves. So for me, that's the beach a lot of the times. It can be road trips with my friends. Like a good trip will always do it, you know? And another thing for me is music. I'm a Pisces. I love music. So music's huge for me. Listening to songs that have inspired me throughout years that take me back to a moment, like that can just start it all up for me again.
Isn't that funny? Like like how musics have timestamps in your life, and it's like it just like gets you fired up sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And if you have like Spotify and you make playlists for like, I do it for every single month. So I'm able to like go back to like today I was listening to April 2021 and I was like, I want to feel that vibe. So yeah.
Interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I
Tap
like
into
that.
that energy a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Damn. And so then the second part is so like your flow state, like what is, I mean, maybe even if you want to share the formula or if you, or maybe just like how quickly you can get in it and how long you can stay in it would like all three questions. I don't know.
Yeah, I think one thing that's super important for me to be in the flow state is to like take a step back from other people's work. So I don't like I feel like sometimes when you're on TikTok or Instagram too long, you're like comparing yourself constantly, like subconsciously, you don't even realize that you're doing it. So I think like if I know I'm gonna have a day where I really need to be in the flow state, I know that I have to wake up early, I have to meditate, I have to work out, do yoga, whatever it is, eat a good meal, like get super centered. But meditation's honestly like the biggest thing for me. So and just staying off of social media, like that's the kicker, I think.
Really? How good are you about like staying off social media?
I'm too good at it.
Really?
I don't even realize how much I'm not on my phone until I'm around other people. Like if I have a sleepover with my friend or something and like they'll wake up and like go on their phone in the morning or like I think today it took me like 4 hours to go on social media. I have such peace not on it that I've completely associated it with work, I guess. So I save that for my working hours.
Oh, interesting. That's dope. That's really cool. I wish I could be a little bit better about it. I'm like on it within like 10 minutes of like waking up.
It's an addiction though. Like it's not something you can just be like, it took me a long time to get here. Like at least a year I've been doing it. So now I can, but starting off, I think I would go like 30 minutes and you just have to have things planned for the morning. Like sometimes that was driving to the beach for me. You can still like listen to music, whatever you want to do, but it's just, you have to be super aware of like your brain in a delta state, which is right before you go to bed and right when you wake up in the morning. Like you have this time period where you're super vulnerable and like to anything that's hitting your brain and you have to make sure like you have really good vibrations coming in, nothing can affect that. So
Yeah.
I think trying it for a little while, like you'll see how good you feel and then that it's easy to quit after that.
That's interesting. Yeah, too. Like you said, like right before you go to sleep, it does. I've noticed for me as well. It does start like actually the night before. I have it planned. Like when 8 o'clock comes, I plan for the next day, and then like I try and get off my phone immediately, like right after that. So hopefully by 8:30, I'm like off, and then 9:30, I'm like asleep.
Yeah, and it's really hard. I feel like you might be this way too, but I'm like a night owl creative. Like I get a lot of creative inspiration at night, so I try not to be super like hard on myself with that. I'll be like, give myself like one night a week, like maybe a Friday night if I'm staying in. I'm like, you can stay up tonight and you can watch YouTube videos, like do whatever you want to do to get inspired, but it has to be for inspiration. So a lot of times for me, that's like, if I want to be on technology at night, that's like going to be YouTube or Pinterest, something that brings me inspiration. It's not going to be TikTok or Instagram where I'm like comparing myself to other people.
Right. That's really fascinating. I've never thought about like that, like almost like giving yourself like, hey, like you could chill for this day.
Yeah, right.
I like that instead of going out.
You have to, like nothing's sustainable if you're like so hot and cold like that.
I think like there's times where also too like I don't like I haven't had this problem like pretty luckily in the last 2 months of like not being able to find inspiration. There was definitely a bunch of times, and I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of times in the future. But it's funny too, because like when I know I'm like, hey, I don't really like, not that I don't need the inspiration, but it's like I just actually need to do the same thing like repeatedly over and over and over. So that's why I'm like, oh, like you got to get to bed, or it's like, even though it feels like, why am I in bed at like 9:30? I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah.
weird. But it's like it feels so good because then I'm up by like 5:36, like on the dot.
I think it's
Yeah.
important if we want to like, if you want to stay in such a good flow, like you have to like throw a curveball like once a week. Like
Yeah.
the last few days I've been waking up and walking around my park by my house. And today I woke up not planned. I was like, I need to go to the ocean right now. So I went to the ocean to walk, you know?
Right.
So it's good to like throw yourself off a little bit once in a while.
Yeah. How long do you think you can stay in a flow state for?
It really depends. It can be like like a short amount of time, or it can be like 10 hours, you know?
Really?
When you're editing like a wedding video or something big, you know, like
For sure.
you can stay in there for a minute.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I think I don't give myself enough credit or something. I've never really like considered like I like flow state, maybe like editing or focusing on a task. You're probably truly right though. I always thought like flow state had to have been like doing something fun, but even if it's just like tedious and you're like trying to get something done, I think that qualifies as flow state too.
I think anything you love is a flow state, like when you're just completely like present, you know?
Yeah. All right. What are you? I have another question here. What are you obsessed with right now?
What am I obsessed with right now? I'd say wellness, health and wellness. That's been like my big obsession. I think we're on the same vibe there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just have taken it a lot more seriously this year in a different way. You know, everyone's like, new year, new me. But I guess in November, I was like, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to start doing it now. And it's just like created a really good a flow for me, I guess. So, yeah, I think anything with health and wellness. I love learning about that kind of stuff. I love cooking. I love eating healthy, whatever. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you're 100% right. I think we talk, that's like a super big common conversation we always have is just like the health part. I mean, I think we both do it. I don't know, for separate reasons, but I think it's for like maintenance basically, and like just being like readily available for like that flow state and to like just grind.
Yeah, I think if you want to be a successful person, you have to have some sort of healthy thing going for you. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
What are you obsessed with right now? Ooh, didn't expect that.
Running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys running 6 miles. 8
Yeah.
miles? Where were you at yesterday?
I was at 8.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know what it was too, but it was kind of like you said, like you can build up to it. Like I was running like 2s and 4s, and then one day I was like, I should just run 6. Like it's like right there. And then like Monday I was just like, I'll just like run 8. I'm like, because I got to 6, I was like, it would be so much cooler to brag about 8.
Yeah.
But,
There
like,
you go.
and I was already into it, so I was like, whatever.
All about the bragging rights.
Yeah. Yeah, slightly very selfishly, like I think like I always play these games in my head, and like I don't know if everybody's like that. Everybody's different for sure, but with myself, I don't know. I think about like it's like a scoreboard for myself essentially, and like I know what the scoreboard looks like in my head, so it's like I always want to keep pushing it.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of people, I'm probably like obnoxious about it, but I think you're super private about it, which is interesting. I don't think you have that scoreboard. Like it doesn't bother you.
I have at points in my life. I think right now I'm a little reserved, but I'm here for it. I'll be there again soon.
No, I know you will too. I've seen you when you've like been in tap with the scoreboard, and it's like I love it.
Oh, thank you.
But I love both sides though.
I feel like you get people out there. Like, you're the kind of person that's just like, you're the coolest person ever to everybody, you know?
Right.
Give off that energy to make people feel like they can be themselves. So.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's like I've noticed like growing up, I was like, dude, like it's just someone just needs to break the ice here. And it's like once immediately somebody does, I'm like, oh, okay, like I might as well just like break it here.
Yeah.
It's like we have to like hang out with each other for like another X amount of hours or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. It's so silly sometimes, this like pride we hang on to.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
we're all just figuring it out.
Mm-hmm. All right. So bringing it back into content a little bit. What is your perception? This is a weird question. What's your perception of the internet? This is like such a big weird question. But I'm curious though.
So I feel like I was kind of the last like generation, I guess. I don't know if we're grouping you into this.
I don't think I'm part of that generation.
I got my first iPhone when I was in 6th grade. And I didn't even know what an iPhone was. I just knew everyone was getting them, and I was like, Mom and Dad, I need an iPhone, and they made it happen. So sweet. But yeah, so I think I've just grown up with the internet, and it's so weird because there's like the digital footprint thing's so crazy to me. I feel like we all have just a whole other life on the internet that we don't know about. Like you'll meet someone who's like TikTok famous for something like random, like rating pickles, Avery.
Yeah.
But you know, like people have all these weird little talents that kind of come out online because you're like, nobody will see this, blah, blah, blah. And then someone sees it and you're like, yeah. So I think that's what happened to me too. Like I would never post the things that I started posting on TikTok, like on my Instagram back in like 2019 or whatever, whenever I started posting. I don't know. I just think we have like a different perception of like the way people see us online. And it's kind of scary sometimes. Like you really have to step back and be like, am I being authentic to who I am? And I've definitely been caught in that. And that's been like a big reason why I stopped posting on Instagram and stuff, because it felt very forced.
Yeah, I think that's also I was thinking about that question too. Like, why don't you post on Instagram? When are you going to return to Instagram? Will there be a return?
I don't know. I have to wait and see. Check out my Instagram.
No, but I think I agree with you. Yeah, it's like almost like you have like fun on other platforms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting though, like the native content that's for each platform. Everybody like has their preference. I remember like when we first met, I was huge on YouTube, and then you were huge on TikTok. I was like, oh, like we're like not even intersecting here. And then you were like, dude, you sound so stupid. Like I remember like vividly those early days of us meeting.
I think that's what started our friendship though, like the banner of like, you don't know what you're talking about, you know?
No, I agree a lot. What do you think companies are looking for like social media stuff, like content, whatever it may be?
I think right now every company needs social media marketing. I think that's where the world's headed. So I think it takes more than just knowing how to post on Instagram. Like a lot goes into it that I don't think people always see. Even with like influencers, people are like, that's not a real job. But if you've ever consistently posted every single day for yourself or somebody else, there's a lot of little things that go into it. You have to be a good writer. You have to be good at planning sets. You have to be ahead of time, you know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that go into it, and it's not for everybody. So I think brands are looking for somebody that kind of has like all these different skills, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I 1,000% agree. There's so much that goes into it. Like we always try to dwindle it down a little bit to just like, oh, hit record and get in front of the camera. But it's like, it's almost not that. There's almost so much that goes into it, because it's actually like we're wasting people's time, money, hours. Like if the pre-production's not going into it, like the setup, like you said, the background, it's like even just like what makes the most authentic sense for this person that I'm recording or.
Right.
Yeah.
Seeing it from a different perspective.
Right. How, out of like the people that you've worked with, how hesitant do you think brands are or companies are like giving you the keys to the vehicle, like, or just trusting you unapologetically?
I think a lot of times companies will reach out to me. Like I haven't reached out to that many companies because it's never been something I'm that interested in, but they'll reach out to me and be like, hey, can you make a video? Like, we love your vibe. Like, we love the videos you make. So I just try to take, like, if it's a flower bouquet that I'm showing, like, I've worked with a brand that does flowers, okay? So, like, I'll be like, okay, that's super authentic to me. I can go act like I'm going to get coffee and getting my flowers, or how can I make this about me? So it's kind of cool in that way. You're able to separate yourself from other people. Just put your twist on it, I guess.
Nice. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, I think like, and also too, if they see your content previously, it's like, there's like no way they're not going to trust you, because I think they see the results too. But yeah, it gets tricky. It gets so tricky with companies.
I think if you were to reach out, one thing that I love doing is just giving them ideas. Like, this is what I would do with your product, you know?
Yeah, interesting.
So I don't know if a lot of people do that. I haven't asked, but
For sure.
yeah, it's something I definitely do.
Ugh.
So, I have a question for you.
Yeah, hit me.
Is Instagram dead? Thoughts?
Yeah, I've actually, it's funny you said that. I think I've been having those thoughts for the last month and a half, 2 months.
But something happened like recently, right?
Yes. Yeah. So mainly like the technical aspect of it is like for some reason like the audience is not cultivating, and it's because it's like the views is not a good reflection of the followers or like the comments or the engagement.
Right.
And like that's completely not the case on TikTok, right? Because the views do correlate like to the following, to the engagement. Same thing with YouTube. But it's like it's just not clicking on Instagram anymore.
I feel like people can hide on Instagram. Like, you'll see not a lot of likes on your posts, and then you go to your stories and you have like 800 views, and it's like, where were y'all at when I posted that photo yesterday, you know?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot more lurking on there, whereas like TikTok, a lot of people you can see who like looks at your page, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's also just like a way different audience. I think a lot of people are making their Instagram like more geared towards people that aren't following them lately, I've noticed.
Yes.
Just bringing their TikToks over, or whatever that is.
Which I think that's a bad. I think
You
it's
think
like a
it's
bad
bad?
angle.
Okay.
Because it's like the way I think about it is when this is like for me, I think it's different for everybody. But like when I post something to Instagram, okay, I'm like, oh, this is just feeding the audience I already have. I don't expect to find anybody. Like if I find anybody cool and new, that's awesome. But essentially it's like any new audience I want to find is either going to be through TikTok or through YouTube.
Yeah.
Like essentially, so it's like if I just be 100% authentic like to Instagram, then those are the people that like already like me because of me. I've met them in real life, or like I know them through a friend of a friend, or it's like, I mean, we're just already friends.
Right. I think I was meaning more towards like Instagram Reels.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, man. And like even like the reels, I'm like just not happy with what's trending. I'm like, I find myself just watching like brain dead videos.
it feels little behind, if that makes sense.
A lot behind.
It
A
doesn't
lot.
really fit in with what we're doing.
For sure, I would agree with you. There's like no storytelling or anything.
Yeah.
I would actually argue that it actually doesn't even like encourage any of that stuff. But I will say this, like I was thinking about the other day, I don't even think that they really care. Like I don't think that they care at all.
Instagram?
Yeah, because like I think that they're just getting so many users like every single second. Like it's like they could do absolutely nothing for the next 10 years and they would still be averaging probably the same numbers.
Exactly. And people have such a hard time letting go of something that fades out. Like, look at Facebook. Does anyone use
Yeah.
Facebook? No, but we'll go on it once a week, a couple times a week, and
Yeah.
just see like who died, who got married, who had a baby, you know? So I feel like Instagram's gonna become that.
For sure. It already is. People are literally telling you when they have a baby, when they died. Oh my God. So
Yeah.
I think you're onto something here.
I know.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
We're living through history right now.
Yeah, we really are. Yeah, you're right. I think we might even just be like over it in the next 10 years. Like just
Oh,
like,
yeah. I think so.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have attempted like really good applications like Be Real and stuff.
Yeah. Do you use Be Real?
I still have the app and I get the notifications still, but I've used it maybe like twice in the last like month and a half. What about you?
I do it when I remember. I don't have notifications on for any app. I think that's like an important thing about me to say.
It's really hard to get in touch with you these days.
If I'm with a group of friends and everyone's like, Be Real went off, I'm like, oh, I gotta get in on this, you know? So otherwise you will not catch me on there. So
Yeah. No, I agree. It's kind of the same thing. I feel the same. Also, too, it's just like the mundane, like day to day. It's like pretty boring.
Yeah. Like I don't want
Yeah.
to see your
It's your desk and your computer every single day.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a content creator?
Yeah.
Interesting. I like that.
Do you?
I'm glad. Yeah, I do. And I was hoping you did too.
Yeah, for sure. It's all I
Yeah.
think about, really. So
Yeah. I was having that conversation with Dom. He was saying like how it's really hard to be, you haven't seen the pod yet because it comes out like in 2 days from this talk. But he goes on to talk about how he's having he's found it difficult sometimes, like living in the present moment because he's already thinking about the bit like after it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I think
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
do
You're
that, and
saying-
it's
yeah.
scary. Like, it's almost
Yeah.
like this fake little world that we put, like, I don't know, I think our generation thinks that we're, like, an audience is watching us, you know? We're always just like, how can we do this, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And it's a scary time. It's weird.
Yeah.
But it's
It is
also, like,
weird.
so cool.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's like so cool because it's like we're in like the perfect time. It's like you don't have to like work as hard for your money anymore. I feel like.
Yeah. And
I don't know if that's weird to say, but
we have like such like a wealth of knowledge online. Like we can learn about anything we want to. TikTok's the new search engine, you know? So it's really a crazy time to be living in.
if I were to look at your phone, like what would the percentages be of screen time? Like what are your most common used like apps?
So I always get annoyed when people are like, show me your screen time because I do this for a job. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
I work 8 hours a day on my phone.
Yeah.
So my socials are always high, but I think if it was just like
Yeah, not like time wise necessarily, but most like frequently used apps.
most frequently used apps. I think Pinterest is a really big app for me. And I think that's kind of like a little gold mine in itself that not a lot of people know about.
Yes.
Make a lot of money on there too. I don't do that currently, but yeah. Pinterest is big. My notes app, because I am the most organized person ever up here,
Yeah.
weirdly enough. So I have to like write down every single thought and organize it. YouTube, probably. TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. What are you watching on YouTube?
I think YouTube's definitely having to come back. And everyone's... And
Yeah,
you called this. I know. And I'm just super into it right now, and I want to start posting on there, so I'm trying to, like, understand it a little more, I guess. But I watch a lot of, like, girly vlogs and stuff.
Yeah.
I love listening to, like, live podcasts on there, too, or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I'm definitely super into, like, long form content right now, I think.
Right.
I don't know, short form content. You have to... It's going to go back and forth forever, so...
For sure.
I think we're going to start weaning into long form content again. So as long as you're like up on the times and you know how to switch back and forth, you've got it figured out.
Yeah, I think so too. I also think I really like the people that have just like stayed consistent through the long period of time and like just actually have like one and then like all the fades like happen and they might have like decreased in audience or whatever, but then they like are winning again like in this year. I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's super cool. I know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like you said, it's a super weird time, and it's like you don't really know like the longevity of really anything. And I think like that's where like most people separate themselves the best is like the people that could spin off and like create a business or like like actually like I don't know, maybe have an online shop or like a physical product or like digital downloads are huge too. I think it's just like spinning off like whatever you want to do. I want to find like a matcha sponsor for this pod, so I'm gonna put it in the air.
Okay, we can.
Yeah.
We got it. Let's call Brendan.
Let's call Brendan. Yeah, no. So that's all I got.
That's all you got.
That's all I got. What have you been like thinking about lately? Did I ask you this already, or just like pure like what are you thinking about like maybe your goals or whatever? But maybe you already know the goal? Like, what are you thinking about?
My birthday's in a week, and I think birthdays are emotional, so I always try to do like a big reflection around this time of year, and then just kind of like set my manifestations in place. So my mind's really been there lately, and I would like to start posting consistently and come back to the internet. So
yes,
that's been a big thing. Been working on some stuff.
I love that. I actually think that this is gonna be out like the day of your birthday or after your birthday or before your birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, so happy birthday, Soph.
A podcast about me.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's like a lot of the questions that I've had for you. I love that. I appreciate you like doing this first and foremost. I think you're a wealth of knowledge. I've learned so much from you. I hope I've been at least like a fraction amount of the same like knowledge for you.
Yeah.
There's a big thing about like trying to figure out where you're going in life. And I think like a big part of the first component of that is like figuring out where you are. And like, I think like you have really, really opened up my eyes to like that aspect of just like authenticity, being present. I had these like thoughts before, but like you've made me like really double down on them.
Yeah, it's so surreal to like see you where you're at now, you know, with your little creative department hat on and like being on your podcast. So cool. Just from like the amount of conversations we've had, knowing you over the year and a half now, is it?
Yeah. It's so crazy.
So crazy. And I think we both, like, we met at the perfect time, you know, in our careers.
Yeah.
We've been able to learn so much from each other so equally. And that's
Yeah.
so cool to me. So
yeah,
really appreciate you.
I appreciate you. I also think it's super funny how we also like had so much stuff going on in the back end while we were both like intertwining and meeting each other and stuff like that we also just had like no idea until like a year later.
Yeah.
And we like talked about it and stuff like that, which is also kind of crazy.
I know. So
Yeah.
talk to people more. That's what you can take from this episode. You
Yeah.
can always learn something from somebody, even the old guy that starts at your job.
Okay, well, I think that's your time here, so I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.